On today's episode, we're going to be talking about Chris Jones and the monster 2022 season he's putting together. Why is the media so silent on the top-rated defensive player in the NFL to this point? And will he have the biggest game he's ever had this week versus the Rams? We're going to talk about all that and more. Stick around.
So the national media is always pushing Micah Parsons and Aaron Donald. They're household names, but you don't even hear about Chris Jones, who is the top-rated defensive player in the National Football League. We're all chiefed up. If you like listening to Kansas City Chiefs news, analysis, and more, hit that sub button right now. Hit that like button. It helps us out a lot. Mike, what's the deal? Why isn't Chris Jones getting more recognition for what he's doing this year?
It's the color of the jersey he wears, Steve. It's nothing more than that. It's the logo on the helmet. If he had that giant star on the side of his helmet, that's all we'd hear about. If he was playing for a New York team, that's all we'd ever hear about. But yeah, he plays for the Chiefs. We've said it time and time again. We're the flyover, small market, middle America team that they don't care if we win or lose. They'd prefer us to lose. Other than that, that's about it. Chris Jones has quietly put together a monster 2022 season, man. And he's had some ups and downs, some downs that weren't his fault, to be honest, but he's had a lot of ups, man. He has looked really good. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it started off a little slow, but lately it's like every game Chris Jones is dominating. And it's like obvious when you watch it. Like 95 is getting the job done. And everybody, is focusing on him and they can do nothing to stop him. He's just dominant and he looks great. And I'm glad he's a Chief.
Yeah, he's always getting held. He gets held more than anybody besides Travis Kelce, probably. He's our defensive Travis Kelce. He gets held every play. It's that simple. The NFL officials are out to get him all the time. Like, let's not forget that bogus talking penalty that he received against Matt Ryan and the Colts. We still haven't heard what he supposedly said.
Cost us an entire game. One of
Right.
our two losses. Yeah.
And what did he say? Nobody's ever said it. Like,
It
what could
doesn't
you
matter what
possibly
he
say?
said.
Exactly.
It could be a death threat. It could be anything. It could be something terrible. It could have been, no matter what it is, you can't give a
Right.
penalty because someone's talking.
And he
That's
leads,
crazy.
yeah, he leads the league right now. 9 sacks. Should have been 10 sacks if you don't take away the other horrible penalty call on Derek Carr on Monday Night Football, where they said he landed on him with his full body weight, although he had already stripped the ball, had it in his hand, and braced his fall. I don't know what else he was supposed to do there. Chris Jones has been the victim of the most horrible penalties and the worst officiating ever in the history of the NFL this season already. But it's not really slowed him down much. He's been dominant, as you said, and it looks to continue. I think he's going to continue dominating. We've seen in crunch time against the Chargers, he went out there during that last drive and just raised all kinds of hell on Justin Herbert.
Well, that's the one thing you can count on with Chris Jones. Even if he's been quiet the whole game, when it's time to step up and be clutch, he's always the man. Like he's going to make those late game plays that make the difference. And that's what makes him great, is because he shows up at the right times and seals games up, man. And that's what you saw.
Have you noticed that he seems to be a little more composed while he's playing? Like he's just like he's taking care of business. He's not like making a big play and then getting up and dancing. He's not celebrating. It's almost like he's sticking it to the NFL. Like, you don't want me to say a word. You don't want me to have fun. I'm going to do my job and I'm going to shut up and go back to the huddle. I feel like I've seen him do a lot more of that lately. Maybe that's just me not paying much attention, but I feel like that's what I see from him.
Quite possibly. I haven't noticed anything out of the ordinary. He definitely doesn't like celebrate each individual tackle as much as say Willie Gay or someone like that, who acts like they won the Super Bowl every time they get a tackle. But yeah, I mean, I think he has been a little more mature this year, I guess you could say. Um, but I mean, when you're always getting tagged with stupid things like the talking penalty, it puts a bad look on you. And you have even Kansas City Chiefs fans that want to talk bad about him and say that he lost us the game because he couldn't shut his big mouth and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, to be honest here, guys, that's just pathetic. I mean, you can't do that.
Yeah, you got to let the guys play. You got to let them, swagger and confidence goes a long way in the NFL. You see that from everybody. But let's talk about some of his stats so far. We're going to compare him to Aaron Donald. We were talking off camera. It's crazy. In the last 7 years, Aaron Donald has won Defensive Player of the Year 6 out of the past 7, which is incredible. But the NFL has to get off of him just a little bit. Like, we got to give somebody else in the mix. I believe Parsons. I believe Chris Jones is poised to take it this year. But yeah, 6 out of 7. The only time he didn't win it since 2015 was in 2017. That was the Vikings safety Harrison Smith. I'm sure some of you guys remember him. But Chris Jones to this point has 16 tackles, 6 assists, 9 sacks, 3 passes defended, 1 fumble recovery, and 2 forced fumbles. And to be honest, if you put that Derek Carr sack back on him, he now has 10 sacks. And if you compare that to Aaron Donald, Donald does have more tackles. He has 24 tackles to Chris Jones's 16. But yeah, he has the same amount of fumbles recovered. He's got less forced fumbles and he has 4 less sacks. Aaron Donald only has 5 sacks to this point. So I would say it's pretty safe to say Chris Jones is probably above Aaron Donald right now if you had to ask me for defensive player of the year.
He definitely is. I think right now Chris Jones is obviously the best defensive lineman in football, and he's the best defensive player in football. He makes the biggest difference when he's on the field. You know it. His game impact is huge. I mean, you can't, like I said, you can't miss number 95. He's always making plays. And I will tell you one thing. I guarantee he has a bigger wiener than Aaron Donald too, because Aaron Donald keeps his in his shorts when he runs his 40s.
What the hell? No, no.
Yeah, so you're going to see the guys head to head this week. You're going to see Aaron Donald on the field. You're going to see Chris Jones. So, who do you think is going to win this matchup coming up Sunday? Who's going to be the bigger impact player?
Dude, I looked it up. Chris Jones versus the Rams. They've only played one game, but Chris Jones had a heck of a game, man. It was that shootout we had with him, I want to say in Mexico, 54-51 on Monday Night Football, if I'm not mistaken. It was back in 2018, I believe. But anyways, Chris Jones, he had 2 sacks, 6 solo tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, 4 QB hits, and a pass deflection. And he only played 65% of the defensive snaps that night. Chris Jones terrorized the Rams, and their offensive line right now is a lot worse than it was then. So I think I don't know if he's going to get to those numbers. That's huge, but Chris Jones will have a good game against the Rams. I think he will actually outplay Aaron Donald this week. For the fact that he doesn't have to go up against Creed Humphrey like Aaron Donald will. That's going to be a fun matchup to watch, actually, is Creed versus Aaron Donald. But yeah, I do think Chris Jones comes in this week and has a monster game. I think he gets after Matt Stafford and probably gets 1, maybe 2 more sacks this week.
Yeah, so our defense is definitely improving every week. They're getting better. They're young. You're starting to see some of them come out of their shell. Joshua Williams is learning a lot. Jalen Watson, who had a hand injury against the Chargers. I wonder how that's doing. Have you heard anything about that?
I haven't. Andy mentioned it in his presser the other day. I haven't heard any updates. We haven't heard any updates on any of the injury news. We're still assuming that Clyde's probably going to go on IR with that high ankle. But yeah, Jalen Watson, hand injury, that shouldn't affect him too much. Again, they're going to be without Cooper Kupp this week. That's going to be a big loss for them, obviously. So I think our safeties and our corners have a pretty good day. I think their number one now is going to be Allen Robinson. So I don't know who's going to draw Allen Robinson. I don't know if that'll be Josh Williams. I don't know if that'll be McDuffie. Maybe they just play a certain side of the field. I don't know how that goes, but it's going to be Van Jefferson and Allen Robinson. So I would think our corners have a good chance of getting back where they left off. They had a rough week last week, but I think they could come back this week and have a nice week.
Yeah, so I found myself wondering, like, what kind of run game they're going to have now. I know they released Daryl Henderson today out of the blue. They do have Cam Akers, but I'm thinking that our linebackers, Willie Gay and Nick Bolton are just excellent. Leo's learning; he's getting there. So I think we could pretty much shut down the run game and make them one-dimensional. Don't you?
Yeah, their running game's not been too hot. I think they're going to end up going with Cam Akers now that they've released Daryl Henderson. That was a big surprise today. They were kind of doing a running back by committee. Cam Akers has been kind of a bust though since he's come in the league. They've not been very impressed with him. This year they had the second fewest rushing yards per game of any NFL team. They're only averaging 76.1 yards on the ground with that running back by committee attack. So I believe going to Cam Akers maybe allows him to settle in and get more of a rhythm going. Sometimes the Chiefs have been struggling with the run game early, and then maybe some halftime adjustments. We picked it up better in the second half. But yeah, I wouldn't expect much out of Cam Akers. I believe if they beat us this weekend, which is a very fat chance, but if they have a shot at beating the Chiefs, I think it's going to have to be with Matt Stafford through the air. And I just don't know if Allen Robinson has enough and if Van Jefferson's enough to beat our defense.
Yeah, so it's definitely time for sports media to start putting some respect on Chris Jones' name because he's a top-rated defensive player in the league. He's making a huge impact for the Chiefs this year, and he deserves his credit. CEH is going to be going on the IR more than likely with a high ankle sprain. If he does, Rojo could see his first regular season snaps for the Kansas City Chiefs. And we talk about it in this video right here, so make sure to watch that. Hit that thumbs up button. We will be back with an injury update and also some more about the LA Rams game, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Hit that subscribe button. See you guys.
There goes a sight from my soul.